Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at industrysyndicate.com and mindshare101.com. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 9. So he started as a real estate agent. Then he became a sales manager, a sales trainer, a real estate principal, and business owner. And he's clinical hypnotherapist with expertise in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. He now mentors thousands of real estate agents across Australia to help take their business to the next level. Amongst the many people he has worked with, been featured with, and even been on stage with, he's taken selfies with Rocky, a.k.a. Sylvester Stallone. He's been part of a mastermind group with Sir Richard Branson. And he also had the Terminator, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger, on stage with him. And Arnie seems to be a big fan. He also not only interviewed GSP, Mr. George St. Pierre, he actually wrestled him in Montreal. And to top it all off, this guy rides a Harley. So from all the way down under, on Tuesday evening in Toronto, Canada, and Wednesday morning in Australia, it is a pleasure to introduce the real estate millionaire maker, Mr. Glenn Twiddle. Glenn, thank you for being on with us, man.
Wow. I'm half looking forward to what I've got to say with that intro, but I'm half thinking, Jesus, I've got to update that bio because I don't know where you found it. But I haven't talked NLP or hypnosis or anything for a decade probably.
Oh.
But it is where I started. But I did find that study of linguistic mastery and kind of, Lamborghini-like mastery of the English language with embedded commands and all of that linguistic precision paled into insignificance with what agents really needed, which was marketing chops to get in front of more sellers to get more listings. So I've focused for the last decade on that and really that alone. The conversion stuff, where communication and linguistics and all of that sort of stuff used to fit in, once I get them in front of everyone, that kind of is less necessary, put it that way. So I haven't focused on it for a long time.
Okay.
I'm going to update my bio.
And you know what, I would say it's funny too, because there's a lot of times where we have watched and seen how realtors go through all of the education to get their license, yet there's no sales fundamentals that come from any of this. And you just said it. It's what to say, right? It's how to say it. They don't even know how to get to the table, never mind what they're supposed to do when they're at the table. I mean, the school will teach you what to do at the table, but it doesn't teach you how to get there.
Well, even then, see, down in Australia, our licensing to get licensed to be a real estate agent really just teaches you how to fill out the paperwork and kind of be legal and compliant. It doesn't even teach you how to do a listing presentation, let alone how to get to the table with which to do a listing presentation. So that's where people like yourself and people like me come in, is that we got to teach them, A, how to get on the shopping list, and B, how to be the one chosen once you're on the shopping list.
Well, this is the thing. So I've said this before, and I even said it to the schools that give out the education around here. I said, you guys got it all wrong. And they look at you and they go, who are you to tell us we got it all wrong?
That's what people love hearing.
Let me break this down for you, right? How about this? If I want to get my license, then here's what should happen. I call you up and I say, I'd like to get my real estate license. You turn around and go, great, David. You've got to be at my place at Tuesday at 7 p.m. ready with your listing presentation. Now I go, okay, because I've just, I'm like, yeah, I got this. I hang up the phone. I go, what's a listing presentation? Now, with the power of Google and all the other technology that's out there, I got two choices. I can either fail and not go to this meeting, or I can giddy up, pick it up, and make it happen. And if I show up and I'm dressed right, and I say the right things, and I show you the right listing presentation, you've got a choice. Will you hire me or not? And if you decide you're going to hire me, then you go, great, David. Thank you for coming by. I'm signing the listing with you. Show me now what you're going to do to market my home. Bye. And I got to leave, and I got to come back to the next one and show you how I'm going to market the house. And now what you're doing is throwing somebody in the fire to the realities of what it is, what it takes to actually be in sales and be a realtor. Anyhow, that was my 2 cents on the whole thing. That's how I think they should be doing it, because you got some really, really super smart people that are coming from anywhere in the world. It could be right here at home in Canada. It could be from Australia. It could be anywhere. They're super smart. They might be doctors. They might be engineers. They could be any of those things. They might be very, very book smart people. Not me. But put me at a table, make me talk, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I like to think about it.
Yeah. Well, and those skills is what I lacked. That's why I went to learn some of those linguistic, nuanced skills and how to do a good listing presentation and all of those skills. So I certainly went all in and I learned them. But then when the only way they taught me to get to the table was make 150 cold calls, get told no 145 times, get told maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then maybe get 1 or 2 listings, per week or whatever, that nearly killed me. So I've spent the last kind of 15 years figuring out how to get to the table without prospecting per se. And because if I'd have been forced to do prospecting to get the business opportunities for the last 15 years, I'd be back doing what I used to do, which is play guitar and sing at pubs, at venues. That was my job before this as a musician. That's what I'd be doing.
Okay.
I would not be in sales if it required me to get told to piss off or whatever other colloquialisms they might have used. I couldn't have put it up with it. So I had to figure out how to get them to come to me, hopefully somewhat predisposed to want to hire me,
Well, I love it. You know what? I want to dig into that a little bit more, but I have a question. You're currently sitting on Wednesday morning. We're only Tuesday night. You're in the future. Is there anything you could tell us?
Yeah,
no,
mate,
I'm kidding.
The lotto number. The lotto number.
Was that?
The lottery.
Who's going to win the game?
Yeah, that's it. Did you say the gold does? No, the Leafs. Back the Leafs. Yeah. We don't know anything about hockey down here. David,
I'm going to convert you guys.
David asked me about hockey, and I had to ask, does that mean ice hockey or does that mean hockey 1, hockey 2? They play at the Olympics.
No. That's somebody said. He says, does that mean ice or normal or regular hockey? And I went, what?
Yeah.
We only know one type of hockey.
Yeah.
So I guess we already opened up with some of your background. And I mean, you just mentioned you're a musician, but just for everybody here that's listening, that's watching this, can you share just quickly, who are you? Who is Glenn? Maybe where do you come from? Sort of how did you get from sort of like where you were to where you are?
Yeah, well, I'm still a work in progress. I'm not anywhere yet. I still think I'm warming up. But where I was is I grew up in, and I don't know the Canadian or the USA equivalent of a town that I grew up in called Ipswich. Maybe there's a place called Sparta, New Jersey. I went and saw, and I know you're not allowed to say his name anymore, but I went and saw Bill Cosby there 15 years ago. And it was about 2 hours west of New York. So it was far enough away from New York that it was in the middle of nowhere, but it was only 2 hours from New York. So it seemed like it had a slightly lower socioeconomic, maybe it's more like Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Lower socioeconomic, working class town kind of thing. That's where I'm from. So, I'm a working class kind of guy, very, normal bloke, for want of a better term. And I got into real estate because I had nothing else to do. Like I was a musician playing guitar on the evenings, on the weekends. So Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon was my working week. And I did nothing all week. So a friend of mine said, hey, you want to have a look at this real estate thing? What do you do during the week? And I kind of said, well, I should be practicing my Eddie Van Halen riffs, but I don't. So I don't know, let's have a look. So it was almost like, it was a hobby almost. Boredom that made me go and have a look at this real estate thing. That was some nearly 20 years ago. And, my frustrations aforementioned that the only way I was taught to get business during that, they had a great training system and methodology to teach us a listing presentation so that even without a brand, even without a big company behind us, because we were a small independent that had no brand in the marketplace, we were, no business came to us. So we had to prospect it all. And we were only taught cold calls. Here's the phone list. Make the calls, here's a script. The script was good. It got us into maybe 5 doors out of 150 ballpark, so maybe 2 or 3%. They'd talk to us face-to-face. Then out of those 2 or 3 or 4 face-to-face, we'd convert 1 or 2 listings if they were selling now, and we'd convert the others later if we had a good listing presentation. But I just couldn't put up with the calls. So I spent the rest of my life, $500,000. I traveled to America. God knows how many times I bought every course. Now, if you have a look, I'll just go off see, there's the green screen there. But that bookshelf is chock full of books and home study courses down the bottom, and literally like thousands and thousands, like hundreds of thousands of dollars in education with one outcome is to get those consumers to call me rather than me having to make those calls to churn them out to call them. So that was and it's still a study to this day. I haven't stopped and won't stop, so happy days.
Okay. So I'm curious to know then, I mean, based on what you just shared, I'm very curious to know where do agents, and I mean, again, I'm not treating Australia like you guys are on a different planet. Where I'm going with this is we are thousands of kilometers apart from each other. And I can tell you right now that even when I look at my audience who is in the United States, they see their business in a different way sometimes than some folks up here in Canada do. And so where I'm going with that question is this whole thing of, and I just tried the live again. It's not working. But where I'm going with that whole thing, I told you I'm persistent, man. Where I'm going with that though is where are agents in Australia seeing most of their business? And let me clarify that question. Is it from people they know? Because I simplify this real stupid simple. Okay, is it people they know or people they don't know? Where do they see most of it from?
Well, historically, I was taught, because I didn't know anyone. So,
right.
And I didn't live in my market area. I lived actually an hour away from where we listed and sold real estate. So for me, it was completely people I don't know, 100%. But that was when I was prospecting. So that was a painful methodology of the way to do things. So many agents, when they get started, they don't just go to their phone like an Amway salesman and start with their relatives and say, hey, do you want to sell? That's not a valid way that we endorse, and it probably wouldn't work. Because what are the odds? Even if you've got 100 people on your phone, if people list a property, because primarily down here we're looking for listings. We don't do the whole double ending thing where we represent buyers and sellers for the most part. For the most part, we just represent sellers. So the odds of someone in my phone listing a property or selling a property, what are the odds that there's one in the phone? Let alone what are the odds that I call them right in that window when they go from not needing a real estate agent to needing one? The odds are astronomically low, because you have to, if you're going to do it to people you don't know and you're going to prospect your way there, like phone calls or whatever, you've got to do it in sufficient enough numbers that you can defeat those insane odds. You know, that there might be a 2 or 3 day window between the time when someone goes from, they'll drag me out of here in a pine box. I don't know if you ever get that saying, but I'm never going to need a real estate. I'll die here. To, oh, that happened. I need to move, right? So there might be a 3 day window between when item A happens, negating the change that they need a real estate agent, to when they call the person who's got, shameless plug here, mind share, top of mind awareness. Their go-to real estate in their mind, right? Yeah, gotcha. So that 3 day window, what are the odds we prospect our way? If it's every 5 years, the odds are freaking hundreds, if not thousands to one. So we need to make our prospecting calls, if we're going to do it that way, with those horrible odds in mind. That means we have to make 150, 200, 300 calls. Our KPI that our boss used to aim for was 80 a day, 400 connects a week. And I'd pull up stumps at 150, think, screw that, right? And I was never our number one performer, but I was a good solid number 2 or 3, you know, with my little 150 where I would be in. But it was that pain. I couldn't deal with the rejection. So the way I would say now is, we still got to get business from people who don't know us. But we don't know them, because there's thousands of them for every real estate agent. But my job, your job, our job is to make those people that we don't know, through our marketing, positioning, our branding, our way we use social media, the way we use video, just like we are now. I'm live here on my thing. They've seen me talk so often. And I'm talking naturally. You've heard me talking off camera. I'm the same as I'm talking now. Unlike yourself with your radio voice in that intro. Welcome to the network and all that. That's your professional voice. I get it.
Sound good for the intro.
I get it. Now that we're talking now, people know our personality, so they feel like they get to know us. And we may never have actually spoken to them. So really, the answer to your question in a long-winded way is, I was taught how to do it prospecting. Our job is to make them feel like they know us, even though we physically cannot know thousands of people. But our job is to make them feel like they know us through personality in our marketing collateral, be that photography, be that video, even our photos. Can't be typical real estate headshots that go, you know, the ones, you know, with arms cut off.
That looks like you.
You know them? Yeah, well, we need to have our photos even look different.
How about when they give you a photo and you look at it and you go, who's this person?
Yeah.
And it's their photo from 20 years ago, and they still haven't updated the thing.
Let me real quick show you. I brought up some slides that somewhere in here that we'll get to it. I brought up some photos of what I mean by, like, people often say, what do you mean by better photos? So, you saw the Harley there. There you go. So one of the elements of celebrity is have some photos that even through your photography, you know a little bit about this dude, right? Yeah. And so in your marketing, you might want to put photography that just showcases a little bit of your personality. Sure, there's might be some serious ones or in suits and shit. Sure, there's clowning around ones and fun ones and stupid ones or whatever, but none of them have cropped arms with, you know, like a typical real estate shot, you know, that you see. Oh yeah, that, you know, yeah, that's the that ain't memorable. That's the opposite of memorable, you know.
So here, I guess on my question, the way I break it down is typically I'll say to them, you will see seven, and pardon me, they tell me. So when I'm on stage and I will ask the audience, I don't care if there's 1,000 people or how many people there's in the audience, where do you see most of your business? Group number one and group number two. And what we normally get from the audience in agreement up here at least, and I'd say up here being North America, is 70 to 90% of their business comes from people that know them, like them, and trust them. Whereas about 10 to 30% is coming from that group of people that don't yet know them. And when we look at the don't yet know you, it could be lead gen, it could be prospecting, cold calling, door knocking, whatever. I'm still a big advocate to the fact that they got to take those people from that, let's say, group number two and transfer them into group number one to create that sort of know you, like you, trust you, and then get into building that mind share.
Yeah. And that can be done even without too much or any face-to-face communication in today's market.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It can be. And now here, so, I mean, when we look at that, right. And I mean, as I do, you also coach and mentor realtors, and you're talking and consulting with agents on a daily basis. I'm always teaching and preaching that they do need to focus on building the mind share. And again, being that top of mind, intuitive, instinctive reaction. But I tell them that they need to be using 7 different channels to do that. And again, just to highlight that for you. And I mean, I would look and say you've got in person, you've got by phone, and you've got text message. And those would be their active touch points, the things they've really got to be involved in. Then we look at things like passive touch points, things like direct mail, which I know is a bad word to some people, but you know what? With the limited amount of people sending it these days, it's got a lot of validity to it.
Yeah, well, people have letterboxes. I'm still in them.
Hey, listen, if you're in real estate, especially, you're trying to connect with somebody's house, right? The only thing you're going to do, the only piece of marketing you can do that doesn't come through this thing is a piece of mail.
That's right.
Right? So all we're trying to do, I don't care if they throw it out. Just while you're looking at your house, I want you to look at my mail and vice versa and go, yeah, chuck it. Done. No problem.
All we want is 3 seconds of imprint where they see the face, the name, and maybe the word sold. Chuck it in the bin. Because you give me 50 of those little 3-second imprints over a year, you know my name. You know my face.
Well, and it'll bring things like digital to life, right?
Absolutely.
So even when you look at your email, I'm probably not reading it. I get overloaded. I got way too many in a day. Your social media, I'm scrolling just like this. So your paper, I'm spending maybe actually more time on your paper, even if I'm taking it and throwing it. But the whole thing that I bring that up is to say that there are 7 different ways to communicate with people, right? And plus you've got, so the direct mail, the email, the social media, and I lump video, I lump voice into that. And then we've got our websites. Right. So through those 7 different ways, it's all got to be done the right way. The right message has to be delivered across the right channel to the right audience. So here's what I'm curious to know. What is the number one thing that you tell agents to do to help them create a more solid foundation in their real estate business? Like, and again, sorry, this could be list, this could be, build a list, find the right CRM, set up a keep in touch program, or it could go out and meet strangers, start an online lead gen campaign. Like, what do you advise them to do?
Yeah, I used to try and find the thing. And what I came to the conclusion was, because that's what agents want. They want a thing. And as I got more successful, I got more of a right to tell them the truth. Well, I cared less whether they didn't want to hear the truth, because I had a bigger.
I don't know if I'm successful, but I tell them the truth anyways.
Well, but I had a bigger line of people now who want my advice, that if someone doesn't want my advice or doesn't like my truth, I could say, can you just pop out of the way, because there's a line of people behind you. Whereas back when I needed business, if they said, give me the one thing, I'd give them one thing, then I'd give them another, and I wouldn't tell them that it is a complex matrix of multimedia, multi-step, multi-channeled, multi-layered touch points, some of which cost a little, some of which cost more, some of which cost nothing but cost time, some of which cost time but no money. And it's only through that multi-stepped approach that they will achieve that mind share, that top of mind awareness. So I often say to them, once they've set their goals of what they want in their world, business-wise, say it works out that they need 20 listing opportunities a month, and they are good enough to convert 12. And we work it out based on their numbers. So say they need 12 listings to get 20 listing opportunities. I say, it ain't going to be one thing that's going to get you 20 listing opportunities. It's going to be 20 little mini marketing systems, all of which are a pain to a great degree or a little degree to install. But once you get them installed, you've rendered yourself recession-proof for the rest of your career. So give me a painful year where you and I are working out like a Wayne Gretzky, and I'm only using a Canadian analogy through my mate Kevin Smith. That's all I know. I only know Wayne Gretzky's name through my man Kevin Smith. Imagine Gretzky in his youth. He wasn't sitting there with work-life balance while he learned with his dad to play the game. You know, he spent a period of time where he was going through hell to get the skills. Now he can live the rest of his life a champion even after he's finished playing. So similarly, if an agent gives us a year where they focus on learning the skills, learning the marketing, learning how to do social, learning how to do copywriting so that their direct mail in the letterbox gets 5 seconds to 20 seconds of eyeball time rather than one, all of those things, if we can spend a year, 6 months for an overachiever, 2 years for a slow learner, but that period of time focused on top of I've got to list and sell real estate time. If they can do that, game over, they win. You know, they'll win for the rest of their career. I got a guy just recently, some of the guys on my Aussie, I got my live here, Chris Gilmore. He did 1.8 million in the last financial year, just him, not his company, him, a sole agent, right? Now, I don't know if 1.8 million is great numbers for the US and the Canadian, but over here, that puts you in the top. 5 million is one of our best in the country. I think 8 million is our best real estate agent that we have. My best student and friend and colleague is Matt Steinway at 5 million. But the guy I'd like to draw your attention to is Chris Gilmore, 1.8 million, because his hours went significantly down every year I've worked with him. Historically, he was doing a 90-hour week when we first started. Now he's doing Ironman training and all this other. He's got a family now, 2 kids. He's done less hours than he's ever done before, and he just had his best year at 1.8 million. Why? It's because all that stuff he did historically was a cumulative effect that $10,000 commission check he was paid this year, he actually earned when he met that person and put them into his world 4 years ago. So he did the work 4 years ago, he got paid now. And I call that premise the future bank. So there's the unfortunate thing. We can go through as many episodes as you'll have me on, Dave, and we'll go through as many of those principles as we can get through, but it ain't going to be one, you know?
Okay, man. You know what? I mean, you could see, and for those of you listening to the podcast, you can't see me smiling from ear to ear, but right now, this guy from literally thousands of kilometers across the globe is preaching the exact same thing that I've been sharing with people. And remember, we have never, him and I, spoken ever before tonight. But seriously, Glenn, this is exactly what I continue to tell people, is that this is a habit builder, right? Like I run the Mindshare Challenge, which is an 8-week training program. We go live 1 hour a week. Today, we did social media boot camp. But every single day, I go live in that group for 10 to 20 minutes. Now, why is this thing 8 weeks long? Because you're not going to form a habit in 7 days. You're not going to form a habit by seeing me on stage for 1 hour and going, I love that guy. Oh, I'm going to do everything he says. No, you're not. You're going to forget half of it when you walk out of this room. But what we get to do now is we get to be there literally every single day to remind people, kick them in the ass and tell them, look, this stuff sucks. It's boring. It's monotonous. But the more you do it, the more consistent it becomes, the more it actually becomes normal to you. And now you don't even think about it. You just kick ass with it. And now people wonder, how are you doing what you're doing? I mean, my whole thing, I want these people to work easier, spend less, and make a whole lot more money, because I think they work way too hard. I think they spend way too much. And it's all these people, you know, it's that famous question when we ask somebody, so what's your budget? And they go, well, I don't know. They go, what do you mean you don't know? They go, well, it depends if it works. I'm like, oh, great. So give me $10,000 a month and it'll work. And people are like, oh, that's a lot of money. I'm like, oh, why?
So you do have a budget. Because I agree with the principle
so
of
what
budget.
is your budget?
If I get someone to be able to self-liquidate a marketing piece, and break even's where I kind of start being happy. If it's profitable, wonderful. But you know, when I'm starting to generate listing opportunities at $20 to, $8 is my best kind of campaign on an extended period of time. $150 is my worst when I didn't have time with that particular client to tweak. He gave me 3 hours. So in 3 hours, we got 2 leads at $300, $150 per listing opportunity. But still, even if it's as bad as it gets at $150 per listing opportunity, and even if you're an idiot and can only close 1 in 10 of the listing opportunities, how often would you swap $1,500 for a $10,000 commission check? Go figure.
Right.
Go figure. And it's never going to be as bad as 150. So the way I see it, once we've got our maths worked out, I agree with the premise, budgets are gone. It's just how much do you want to earn? Once you can swap $1,500 for 10 grand and you are knowing your mathematics, we're golden. Now it just depends on what volume can you and your team handle. Scales all the way up to my best student at $5 million in gross commission. Not bad. So, well, not bad. It's freaking unbelievable. That's one guy, but he's got a team of 8 people that help him run the show in, administrators and buyer runners and all of those sorts of EBU, we call it down here, a business unit, So it scales, but the first thing is you got to get your maths right. You got to know.
This is the thing. I mean, they go out, they chase the bright, shiny object. They spend a lot of money, and then after a couple months, it doesn't work. They try something else.
Yep.
Guys, most things don't work in a couple of months. It takes a hell of a lot of time. I've been saying it. You hear it from so many people. Glenn is sharing with us right now. It takes a hell of a lot of time. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. We know this guy, right? One of Glenn's buddies. He didn't get built and big in a week or a day or by just thinking about it or wanting it. He worked at it every single day consistently. Rocky, we know the story of Sylvester Stallone. How many times he was turned down for that movie? How many times? Right? Yeah. And then he finally cracked it and got it. And now look, we all know
with
Rocky.
That one, he was turned down for a lot of roles and stuff, struggling actor. That's why he wrote Rocky. But the thing that's amazing about that son of a gun is him turning down when he's broke, no money, had to sell his dog.
His dog.
But so you see in the movie, that's his dog that he sold for like $50 in order to afford to eat. Then he was turning down money for him not to star in it because they wanted the script and they did not want him. They didn't want him.
What a story!
Wow, man.
But that's your that's just wanting it, but actually doing every single day, being persistent with it, being consistent with it. Yeah. That's what brings it to life, right? Yeah. So, I mean,
what I would say, man, let me add to the point of things don't work. Depends on the thing. So what I'll do, mate, is if I'm sharing any screens in here, and I'll give you the show notes that you can whack them down for a downloadable as a PDF. So you guys will have these graphics. If you're listening on audio, you can have a look at the show notes. So if we go, like this is an old graphic of the Matrix that I call it, where it's a multifaceted octopus-like thing. And if you're listening on audio, it's just a big mess of stuff that you need to get implemented. Right. But I tried a couple of weeks ago to get it more simplified, where we've got our marketing, our branding weapons. Right. So what I'm saying is, and I'll get more verbal here, if your marketing piece is a branding exercise like one of these things, like a sold flyer that gets deployed regularly, it only works with some semblance of ongoing exposure to the marketplace for it to work. If someone comes to me with my sold flyer letterbox system and say, hey, Glenn, I've been doing this for 3 months and it's not working. Well, it's not designed to work for 3 months. It's designed that it will start working after 12 to 18 months. However, if we send out a direct response piece where there isn't really a branding side benefit or it's only a minimal branding side benefit, if it doesn't work on mailing number 1 of 1,000 homes, we must stop immediately because the copy message to market match is flawed and we need to try another test. So what I would say is some things need time to incubate, but there are some things, if you make 1,000 cold calls and you get no appointments, we're not going to do another 1,000 cold calls. We are going to look at your script, see what you're saying, see what you're offering.
Review it 100%. I agree with that 100%. And this, but there is no magic pill. Yeah. Nothing's happening overnight is what we know, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people are trying to do that. I mean, we look at like recently, we just polled a whole bunch of realtors and we found that the 3 things they hate most to do to get business, and this is no brainer, right? Door knocking.
Cold calls, door knocking.
Right? Cold calling and open houses, right? We know this.
Oh, open houses. Okay. I never minded them because that's people coming to me. I didn't mind them.
This is the thing. But I guess
we
they don't
do
like
45-minute ones. I've heard you maniacs do 3-hour bloody open house.
That could be it, though. It's the time.
Can you imagine the benefit of doing we've had guys do them as low as 20 minutes. We've found the sweet spot 25, 30 minutes. Imagine if the 6 buyers you were going to see over a 3-hour sit were compacted into 25 minutes. They all turned up. They all see each other, thus creating urgency. And you get in and out within 40 minutes. So you can do 7 or 8 open homes in a day and see 50 new buyers in any given day. How might that work? You know what I mean? Well, that's the norm for our guys. I said that on the Real Estate Uncensored podcast. I don't know, Greg McDaniel, just a great dude, him and Matt Johnson. And they were like, oh, man, that's all. It was revolutionary. Well, that's every day down here. 50 buyers a weekend in an average.
That's wild, man. I don't think anybody up here does 20, 30, 40-minute open houses, but I would agree 100 million% with the idea of the urgency, because I know even when we're running a Mindshare challenge, it's not open for a month to register. It's open for like 48 hours, right? Get in or move on type thing. And I mean, I'm very grateful for all the people that join us, and I think they're grateful for the fact that they've decided to join us. That's a good thing. But so we ask the people what they hate most. That's what they tell us. Then we ask them, what do they like most? And of course, network and referrals. Yeah, okay, no brainer. But where do they get most of their business? And this was the interesting one. A lot of them labeled out open houses. A lot of them said cold calls, and a lot of them said door knocking.
Things they hate.
Things they hate, which was interesting. But here was the other thing that was really key. And this is where I want to sort of move into this part for a second. A lot of them hate giving out free value and hosting free seminars. Now, here's a group of people who all they're trying to do is up their game in social media, and yet they hate giving out free value. And I'm going to tell you, man, I mean, I'm into this thing, and I know you are. How much free value do we give out on a regular basis? Like, that's what we do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you create an audience, you create people. But that's what the value in the content and the genuine connection is. And I mean, here, I posted something, free value, on Instagram. You happen to like it. I happen to react and respond and engage with that post. We shot back a message quick and back, and here we are on a podcast, right?
And here's the scary thing. Let me give you this, though. Let me give you this. And here's the scary thing that your guys need to live and breathe this, right? It can't be just something they do once. Because I've always kind of been a bit like this. I've always kind of half got it instinctually, but it was only when I did some business some years ago with Gary Vaynerchuk, and we ended up getting a friendship. I ended up going and spending a day at VaynerMedia in New York City. I brought him down to Australia for a day hanging, and he really gave some wording and some context and some principles around what I kind of did naturally. But here's the damning admission. I do what I did with you so often. I have no recollection of the post. I have no recollection of the back and forth.
I don't remember the
recollection of our messages back and forth. It wasn't until now that we are actually connecting on a human basis, because I make you feel like I did 100 times a day with other people. And Absolutely. You never know who's going to be the David from Mindshare that's going to be a relationship, who's going to be future business. We're still just adding free value out in there into the world. There's been no commerce change hands.
That's my point.
And that's the way to go. Point. So often that it's habit. That's just the way you live.
Okay. You didn't spend money and I didn't spend money, and the value was there. The engagement was there. The connection was there. The relationship is now there. We're now here. That was free.
Yep.
So my question to you there then, when we go there, right, because we're, when we look at the agents who are trying to up their game, okay, and we talk about this free value, we talk about the fact that they hate giving it out, we talk about how simple this is. Do you believe that they should be spending a lot of money on Facebook, a lot of money on their social media? And if you do believe they should be spending that, what should they be doing before they do that? For example, where should their organic game be? At what level before they start thinking that, spending money on this stuff is actually going to work for them?
Well, it depends on where they're at. Because if they're at 1, 2, or 3 listings and they want to get to 10, they've got more time than they probably have a budget. So I'm going to say do whatever you got to do to get 4, 5, or 6 listings so that you can get 3 sales a month, 20 or 30,000 a month, so that you can spend $5,000 a month of that on Facebook. It all depends on where we're starting. So if one has nothing except their time, attitude, and a will to succeed, then we're going to hit the pavement, we're going to hit the phones, and we're going to do whatever we can. We can't rely on anything, in my opinion, on Facebook organically if we're starting from scratch, because of the lack of Facebook letting you play for free. Since the algorithm change, effectively, Facebook is still cheap. So when you say how much should they be spending?
I know.
Everything they got. right? My Facebook bill for the last 12 months, $260,000 US, which is 400.
Okay, but hold on.
Australia.
This person just said to us that they've got a budget monthly of $500 a month. We're not talking for social. We're talking marketing.
Then spend it all on social. Is my advice.
No. That's why we're asking, right?
Yeah,
because I believe a little differently.
I'll back it up. So the Soulfly strategy that I still preach, teach, and endorse, to get 1,000, which is our farm area that we're looking for mindshare with, we're looking for top of mind awareness for 1,000 to 1,500 homes. So a big fish, small pond, I call it. So we get that area mapped out in our head. We write it up on the wall with a big map and say, that's my area. Anyone else comes in there. So you get that attitude about your area. And it's your mission to know those 1,500 people. So if you were to deliver your Soulfly strategy to the thing, to print out 1,000 flyers here costs about $150 to $200 per 1,000. So it's about 15 cents per piece of paper, double-sided A4 gloss, done to the right formulas. Then we want to do that weekly, and it costs us, if we're going to pay someone to deliver it, $50 to $80 per 1,000 to deliver it. So we're talking about 20 to 25 cents per 2-second impression, sold Glenn Twiddle face bin, right? That's kind of what we get. Now, if you do that 50 weeks a year, by the end of that, you've spent $10 to $15 on one house, and that house knows the face, knows the name, and you've got some mind share for $15, $10, $15 per household. So I still recommend doing it. But if it is I've only got $500, so I can't afford to do that monthly, Glenn, how about I do it fortnightly? A weekly, Glenn, how about I do it fortnightly? That's every 2 weeks. Should I do that? Well, you've blown your budget on one strategy, so I would say no. I would say go all in with every dollar you've got on Facebook, because you can still pick the geography. You can lower the age demographic and target just the people of the right age that might be a property seller. But instead of each impression to a consumer costing you 25 cents to get that sold Glenn Twiddle bin, it costs you 1 to 3 cents. And you get more engaged. You just get more bang for buck whacking on their phone. I mean, the people watching me on my stupid phone now. So if it's an either or, the only media I would recommend is Facebook, because they're not letting you play for free anymore, but they are letting you play real cheap per connection.
And I'm with you there. It's never going to be cheaper than it is right now. So now let me frame that one another way. I've got $500 a month or $1,000 a month. I'm not going to put it towards the Geo Farm flyers to neighborhood farming. I'm going to look at my social media. But now when we look back to the groups, we've got group 1, the people we know. We've got group 2, the people we don't know. Should I not be spending some of my money on the people I know?
If they know you, then if they know you and they're
a little bit of a newsletter once a month.
Sorry?
Newsletters, something to keep that mind share going with them?
If you've only got 500 or 1,000, I'd say no. I would say they will see you enough on social. If they genuinely know you, they'll see you enough to know you, right? They'll still see you. They'll still know you're alive. So if you bring in, now if they're outside of your Geo Farm area, well, are they really that valuable to your business? Now, maybe they are, but what I'm saying is highest and best use of our marketing budget. So what I would say is we bring in the geography to our small pond. We bring the age demographic to a likely seller, or if you're after targeting buyers, a likely buyer and or seller, so maybe 35 to 59 perhaps, or whatever your area is as far as likely age of your consumers, and then chuck every penny of that dollar at that. And then now you've also got to look at the creative of what you are saying with your $1,000, $250 a week on that thing, which is another, there's a menu of maybe 8 things that I would recommend you saying to that budget, to that marketplace, to that geographic, age appropriate demographic. But that would be the advice, is go hardcore on that, because the world is glued to these stupid things.
I'm with you.
Red lights don't mean stop anymore. They mean stop and check your Facebook feed.
Right. So how about this then? Now, are we teaching people then to do this on their own? Or are we getting them to go and hire somebody to do it themselves? And if they do it on their own, if they hire somebody, to me, it's
well, their budget's gone at that level. So
thank you.
You can't.
Your budget's gone for the management. You don't have enough for your ad spend.
Correct.
Now you look and say, okay, so if I'm going to do this on my own, I've got to understand Facebook Ads Manager. Fine. There's this thing called Google. If you've ever heard of it, you can figure out anything you want.
But
right?
I would just say, without freaking them out, because if they go deep dive into Facebook the way I'm sure you have, the way I have, it'll freak out the average real estate agent. How do I know? Because it freaked me out. right?
Yeah.
It was a painful learning curve. So
Yeah.
what I would say is the learning curve to get your geography of audience creation, it's not too difficult, right? To get your audience created geographically with the pin and the radius and in your area, and it's not too tough to bring the age demographic down. My opinion is, don't worry about interests, don't worry about detailed targeting, don't worry about lookalike audiences, don't worry about all the fancy dancy stuff.
Keep it simple.
Geography and age. Prepare your audience, because basically, if they are 39 years old and they live in my area, I don't care. I want to be famous to that human. That's period.
Okay.
So that's my take. But then you do have to learn that a boost is just simply a shortcut to an engagement ad. So learn how the functionality between the boost button and how that links in with Ads Manager. Those skills, if you can just get those skills, a surface level understanding of Facebook Ads Manager, audience creation, and the boost button, that's a good spend of your $500. Because as you say, if you don't hire anyone else, because no one will work for you who's any good for $500 a month. So now you got no money for ads. But even if you go $200 a month, well, they probably don't have the chops. So just learn those basics. You'll do better half-assing $500 as long as you get age and geography right than the expert will trying to optimize $150.
So some people have said then, some experts, social media people, don't touch the boost button, always create the ad.
Yep.
You agree or disagree with that?
Well, there's a lot of clever social media people who have knowledge and their primary outcome is to sell consultancy services. The boost button is nothing more than a shortcut to an engagement ad. So the types of ads you can have engagement and video views and conversions and traffic and all of those things. Well, right now and for the last year, when you have engagement as your outcome versus video views, engagement ads, where the metric we're measuring is video views, has been outpulling video views 2-1. So there is nothing wrong with an engagement ad. I do very little other than engagement ads for both myself and for clients. So any holier than thou social media folk who are with they want to sell themselves because they want to feel really clever to their marketplace. Oh, you don't do that. You've got to use this really complex thing, and only I'm good enough to use it, so you've got to go to me to either learn how to use it or whatever. I believe it's a self-serving piece of advice, or it's an ignorant piece of advice that they genuinely believe that the boost button is no good, and the boost button is just fine so long as you tweak the defaults, that you don't let that default go to the audience network or Instagram accidentally, because I don't believe you should be going to them if you've only got a small budget. Just all in on Facebook for now.
Okay.
Because we've split tested Instagram. It's valid. We play with it. But I don't spend a disproportionate amount of my money there because it costs 4 times the money, according to the studies I've been doing over the last 6 months, 4x the money to generate a lead there than on Facebook. So given that no one's even close to scratching the surface on how much they're spending on Facebook, I don't worry about Instagram. I don't worry about the audience network. Just all in on Facebook, and there is nothing wrong with the boost button. It is simply a shortcut to an engagement ad, and an engagement ad is the best ad today. Now, Facebook plays with who it gives its premium traffic to. Sometimes it's got new little features that it'll give some disproportionate love to. Like right now, video views are actually, for the last week, getting okay because I've got this little new toy called Through Play. When Facebook adds a new toy, play with that, because often Facebook will give it disproportionate love to show off their new toy. But for the most part, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the boost button. In fact, it's better than most clever people trying to optimize for conversions, and they haven't got the other shit set up properly anyway in order to do so.
Okay, so now let me ask you this.
Long answer there, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Listen, I am the most guilty guy of that. Short question, long answer, always. What about content then? What is the take on, and we just talked about the fact that the feedback says they don't want to provide free content. We know when we ask them, and before we even tell them why we're asking them, do you like to sit behind a computer all day and write content? Or would you like to be out there talking to people all day? Oh, no, I want to be out there talking and network with people. Great. Let me tell you something. If you want your social game to climb, you better dedicate time and block time in your day, in your week, to put content together, and it's got to be value-add, engaging stuff. Right? So what would you recommend to people in terms of just, I guess, in a short form of that, because we're definitely coming back to this topic on another episode. What what is that idea around content for you? What advice or tips can you say to people? Look, you've just told them, go figure out how to do it on your own, essentially. Put your money there. So now it's okay. I figured out how to do it. I know what my budget is. What am I doing? Like, where am I getting content from? What am I putting up?
All right, so here's what I'll do, because I agree with you. We want to give these guys some real value. So what I'm going to put together for you, bud, and you can put them in the show notes, or people can contact me or whatever the case may be. I'll get a module put together to step-by-step show them how to create their audience. So there'll be no confusion there, and they won't have to get advice that, if they kind of take on board what we're saying, I'll put together a module, right? You'll have that for them. Then I'm going to give you some examples of what to put up. Just some basics, because while you've got a limited budget, you might only do 2 or 3 things out of the 8 or 9 things I might recommend. And some of those things where we might spend hours and hours doing content creation might scare them off and might not be the highest and best use of their time. So the places I would start when we're going forward is just be natural. Just put up whatever shit you normally put up, showing you as a person. Like I've just gone live and you saw the amount of time I put on my Facebook Live. There's no production. I just push live on that and there's people on there. It's all good and whatever, right? So just whatever you'd normally do, a selfie at the beach, whatever, showing your humanity. It's number one. But that's easy. You're doing that anyway. So just do that on your page. Secondly, and by the way, don't just do that organic because nothing's going to happen organic. So do that and at least chuck a $5 to $10 one day boost to your audience. If you're not going to boost it for $5 or $10 for one day, don't do anything, right? Just don't do it at all. So that's number one, just your normal shit. So what that means is you might put a little bit more thought into what you're writing, knowing that you're going to boost it for $5 or $10, right? So that's number one. Number two is you want your area to know that you're alive, right? So one of the easiest forms of content, and I know I've heard a lot of people say don't do this. Well, I'm saying do this, is chuck your listings up there. Now, chuck them up there in a format and a formula that's better and more attention getting than just your realtor.com links or your True or whatever the portal links are. Make sure you're driving them to your website so that you can do some of the more advanced stuff that David might teach you in your Mindshare challenges and things like pixel targeting and all of that read marketing and stuff. But we drive them to your thing, making sure you include some engaging copy. Think about your headline. Think about your emoticons that you are using to stand out as someone is strolling through a newsfeed. Think about using your most engaging photo or video for your listing. But put your listings up and boost them for $10 a day per listing for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So a couple of $100 in Facebook marketing, $10 a day for a couple of weeks, blast it out to your audience. What that tells your audience is, I'm in real estate and I have properties for sale. The last thing I would say as entry-level Facebook is getting what I call video sold flyers. Now, video sold flyers, it's a long-winded, hour-long training in order to do it. But effectively what it is, it's a quick intro from you saying, hey, Glenn Twiddle here, you're not going to believe I was honored when this came through across my desk. You know what? They tell the story better than I am. But let me just say, Mrs. Jones here, it was my honor to serve you, ma'am. Thank you. And then it cuts to Mrs. Jones giving you a heartfelt video testimonial, branded top and bottom that says sold by Glenn Twiddle with, subtitles down the bottom and a nice video sold flyer with your branding on it because you do a quick intro saying, hey, Glenn Twiddle here, check out Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones giving you a heartfelt story of how you served her and what that meant for her. So effectively, at the end of the day, when you destroy that to your area with your $500 a month, when you put a couple of listings to your area with $500 a month, and you put your general shit out there as part of that $500 a month, you're telling your audience constantly, 1 to 2 seconds at a time, every day, because I treat our Facebook page like a radio station. How often is a radio station on the air? All day, every day.
And Gary says it. Yeah. Gary says it minimum 4 times a day, and people are like, 4 times a day. Yeah. I'm like, you're not even doing once a day. Yep. Just focus on that right now. Yep. But yeah,
and if you've got an ad set, though, with a couple of these content pieces, these video sold flyers just constantly driving into the newsfeed at $10 a day, you've got your listings thrown in there at $10 a day, and you've got the odd little piece of random content at $10 a day, you might spend your $500 to $1,000 a month, but here's the message you're saying to your audience. I'm a person, that I've got a life and a family, and I do stuff. Here's the job that I do. I sell houses and I'm freaking good at it because of all the testimonials. So I do the same thing. I'm constantly putting up, hey, I've got a seminar. I coach agents. I'm about to go in to see a coaching client. I'm on a webinar where I'm teaching agents across the world. I'm on Facebook Live now talking to Canada. So they know I'm a coach. They know, because they're constantly seeing my success stories, whether I'm bragging about how wonderful my clients are or whether they are bragging about me on video. So I'm telling them I'm a coach. I'm telling them I'm freaking good at it through these marketing pieces. And I'm telling them I'm a person. That's the foundation stuff. You can get those three principles across over. You're going to go from having a $500 to $1,000 budget to having a $10,000 budget before you know it.
I love it, man. And you know what? All of that stuff has to have a funnel somewhere. It's got to be attached to something. And I think that right there, you and I could probably yap for like literally another hour on that.
Let's do another hour, man. When are we doing it again?
And we're going to do it. We're going to do it because you know what? Timing is of the essence here. You've got things to do. I know it's only the beginning of your day down there, the end of my evening. But again, I could rap with you all day. Buddy, this has been absolutely awesome. Where can people find you?
Probably check out, some free stuff. They're going to get some free stuff if they want to. Now, I don't know if you've got the download functionality, but either check below and see if these modules are there for the freebies, or just reach out to me on Facebook. You don't need to know where to find me. Just Glenn Twiddle. Any marketer, if they give you more than their name, they don't know how to market, because you'll find me. Facebook's my primary channel to respond. So give me a message on Facebook. But the Real Estate Renegades podcast, that's pretty good. Lots of good free stuff. It's all about, hey, let me go first. That's what we do, David. We coach for nothing. And if people like it, they might come up for more. If not, they'll just give us a hug. Or, mate, it's that attitude, man. You said before about that Harley Davidson. That my clients bought that for me. I didn't buy it.
I saw that story, man. First, I didn't even know you had the Harley until I read that story. I went, that's it. Like I've taken my bike. I've crossed the country on my bike many times right now. I absolutely love riding. And when I saw that you had that, I went, that's it. I'm
just showing for the audio viewers, they're hearing you. But
this
for the
is
video,
my people right here.
Where are they? There they are. That group of people, that group of clients there, they chipped in. There's 20 or 30 of them. They chipped in and bought me a $25,000, $30,000 Harley Davidson. Not bad. Not bad. Got to be doing something right, bud. The attitude of Zig Ziglar said it, didn't he? Help enough people get what they want, you get what you want.
Absolutely. Guys, everyone, make sure if you aren't already, you check out Australia's #1 millionaire maker. Glenn, thank you. I really, really appreciate you taking the time today. This has been absolutely awesome. Okay, you either watch this on Facebook or maybe YouTube, or you're listening to this on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Maybe you went to theindustrysyndicate.com or even mindshare101.com. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thanks everyone for watching and listening.